With its bold theme revolving around the art of dress and creativity in fashion, this show truly became a stage for stars to express their individuality, break boundaries, and transform the red carpet into a colorful, living exhibition. However, not every choice achieved the expected level of sophistication. Alongside the impressive fashion moments, there were also outfits that sparked public debate due to their incomprehensible concepts, overly extravagant presentation, or lack of harmony with the overall spirit of the event. In today's video, we'll revisit 20 of the most talked about outfits of the night, from daring designs to choices that made viewers pause for a few seconds to reflect. If you find the content interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to support the channel and not miss the next videos. Kylie Jenner appeared in a design by Daniel Roseberry from the Schiaparelli fashion house, inspired by the spirit of fashion as an art form. However, instead of creating a vibrant sculptural effect on the red carpet, the overall look sparked debate due to its unusual composition and lack of cohesion. The bodice is a structured nude corset combined with elongated surreal details and a form-mimicking element, reminiscent of the illusion dressing trend. While the artistic effect is clearly intended, the execution makes the overall look somewhat disjointed and difficult to define aesthetically. The skirt is made of cream and ivory satin with folds and drapes around the waist, giving the impression of a transitional design rather than a complete and unified whole. Despite reportedly taking over 11,000 hours to create the Baroque pearl embroidery technique and intricate decorative details, the final visual effect remains quite complex and lacks the necessary harmony. The accessory highlight is a large silver necklace worn in a rather unusual way, adding to the overall appeal, but also distracting attention. While this might be a bold choice to create a focal point, it makes the overall look appear heavy. The makeup style, with its bleached eyebrows and sharp lines, creates a stark contrast with the overall concept, while the hairstyle, a blend of curls and classic waves, lacks cohesion, making the overall look difficult to define in terms of style instead of achieving the desired balance. Lily Rose Depp appeared with a style that embodied the elegant and subtly sensual spirit characteristic of Chanel within the framework of the theme, "Fashion is Art." However, instead of creating a strong impression or a statement, the overall look felt safe, somewhat nostalgic, and lacked the necessary breakthrough for an event that emphasized creativity. The gray crepe silk dress, reportedly requiring 597 hours to create with over 2,000 intricate embroidery details, failed to convey the pioneering spirit or boldness befitting the theme. Instead of becoming a standout on the red carpet, the muted color of the outfit seemed to blend into the architectural space of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, resulting in an overall lack of a strong visual impact. The choice of light blue slingback heels with black toes also created a noticeable mismatch. While the design itself possesses its own fashion value, the color combination doesn't truly harmonize with the dominant gray palette, causing the overall composition to be fragmented and lacking cohesion. In an event celebrating the intersection of fashion and art, this choice leaned more towards safety than experimentation. The overall result felt polished and familiar, but lacked surprise, making it one of the least memorable appearances of the evening. Suki Waterhouse chose a bespoke Michael Kors peach-colored dress inspired by classical beauty and Greek sculpture. However, instead of evoking the feeling of a work of art elevated on the red carpet, the overall look leaned more towards a runway outfit than a truly clear fashion statement. Although the initial idea aimed for the softness and fluid movement of classical art, the deep V neckline and form-fitting silhouette felt quite familiar to typical red carpet designs, rather than offering a fresh or more sophisticated interpretation of the artistic theme. Instead of evoking the image of a living statue, the overall design lacked the strong structure needed to create a striking presence in the event space. The accompanying accessories further emphasize this direction, with a laurel leaf-inspired floral wreath adorned with sparkling details, a matching bracelet, and large statement jewelry reminiscent of Greek goddesses. However, instead of elevating the overall look, these details made the appearance feel more like a reimagined costume than a sophisticated contemporary fashion concept. The choice of light blush and subtle eyeshadow, while harmonious, was quite safe and lacked the impactful element expected at an event emphasizing creativity and unconventionality. Therefore, the overall image felt pleasant and gentle, but lacked the necessary breakthrough element. In the context of a night celebrating risk-taking and creativity in fashion, this rather safe approach made this appearance one of the least memorable moments of the event. Karlie Kloss appeared in a custom-made white Dior design, fitting the minimalist theme of the event, themed fashion as an art form. However, instead of creating a striking and highly performative moment, the overall look felt restrained and lacked the breakthrough element that would have surrounded it with intense creativity. The dress, designed by Maria Grazia Chiuri, featured a voluminous skirt crafted with a sculptural approach. While the concept aimed to transform the body into an artistic canvas, the execution lacked the necessary sophistication, sometimes giving the impression of unbalanced shapes rather than a clearly defined couture composition. The visual impact was therefore insufficient to make a lasting impression in an evening filled with highly expressive designs. Choosing a sleek, neatly styled bun paired with a small purple flower and light purple-toned makeup creates a gentle yet safe look. Instead of becoming a focal point that elevates the overall appearance, these details lean towards familiar minimalism, lacking the element of surprise needed at an event that emphasizes creativity. In a context where many designs are experimental and exaggerated, this choice is generally harmonious but lacks visual competitiveness. While maintaining a polished and consistent personal style, the overall look lacks the necessary boldness, making it one of the relatively safe and easily overlooked appearances of the evening. Kim Kardashian offered a rather bold interpretation of the theme, "Fashion is art," but overall it became one of the most controversial choices of the night, both in terms of structure and aesthetics. In collaboration with artist Alan Jones and design duo Whitaker Malum, she appeared in a vibrant orange breastplate crafted from fiberglass. While the idea was to transform the body into a living sculpture, the design felt rather heavy and rigid, more like a performance prop than a haute couture garment that could naturally blend with movement on the red carpet. Instead of celebrating the body's fluidity, the structure almost completely stifled any inherent softness. The sculpted details on the surface continued to exploit the human body motif, which had appeared in many other designs of the night, but in this case, it lacked a distinct novelty, making the overall look feel more repetitive than groundbreaking. The fact that the outfit was completed with the involvement of a car body repair shop also highlights the industrial engineering element, making the design lean more towards craftsmanship than artistic emotional depth. The lower part of the outfit, a hand-painted leather skirt with color patches reminiscent of a sunset while having its own visual concept, doesn't quite match the structured top. The burnt orange cape, loosely draped at the hips, adds a layer of movement, but instead of increasing depth to the overall look, it makes the composition feel heavy and somewhat superfluous. When combined with the monochromatic hairstyle and makeup, along with minimalist accessories, the look, despite using a very strong color palette, lacks a clear visual focal point. Instead of creating a sculptural moment with a strong statement, the final overall effect feels rigid, with many layers of ideas but lacking the necessary cohesion between the elements. Sarah Pidgeon attempted to break away from her usual minimalist style, but the result felt more like an unfinished idea than a completed fashion statement. The vibrant lime green outfit, part of a matching set, clearly showed an attempt at a sculptural interpretation of the theme, "Fashion is art." But the overall effect lacked the necessary cohesion to fully convey the original idea. The strapless top with a twisted bow detail was intended to evoke the human form as an artistic element. However, instead of conveying a sense of sophistication and clear purpose, the structure was visually heavy, making the design appear forced and lacking continuity between idea and execution. The combination with the floor-length skirt, adapted from the runway trousers to enhance elegance, failed to balance the elaborate top, resulting in an overall disproportionate look. The matte satin material of the outfit also failed to create the necessary visual effect to elevate the design. Meanwhile, the hairstyle with soft, natural waves and the light skincare-focused makeup felt too commonplace compared to the conceptual spirit of the outfit. This contrast resulted in a lack of consistency between the style and the artistic vision. With an image traditionally associated with elegance and sophistication, this bold experiment did not achieve the expected effect. Instead of expanding her personal fashion language, this look felt disjointed, incomplete, and failed to truly convey the creative spirit that the event's theme aimed for. Lena Dunham returned to the red carpet after a 7-year absence as a member of the organizing committee, offering a rather direct approach with inspiration from Baroque art and historical violence. However, instead of becoming a moment of artistic depth, the overall effect felt more shocking than subtle in its interpretation. She appeared in a custom-made blood-red Valentino design inspired by Alessandro Michele. Some behind-the-scenes reports mistakenly identify the creative director. A sleeveless, shoulderless Georgette silk dress covered in sequins to evoke the blood splatter in Judith slicing Holofernes. While the visual storytelling idea was quite clear, the execution leaned towards strong visual effects, sometimes becoming overwhelming, making the overall look more ostentatious than the refined spirit of haute couture. The design incorporates a collar and trim adorned with thick fur running along the body and hem, creating a dramatic effect, but simultaneously detracting from the graceful silhouette. Instead of highlighting the body's curves, these details make the overall look heavy and obscure the wearer's figure. The choice of red sandals with metallic details, intended to match the color scheme, feels somewhat out of sync with the historical inspiration the outfit aims for. Meanwhile, the pinkish-red polka dot nail polish creates a stark contrast with the dark and intense story the overall look is trying to convey. The light makeup and simple half-up hairstyle offer some balance, but are still insufficient to soften the overwhelming visual intensity of the outfit. The combination of 17th century inspiration, theatrical elements, and modern accessories results in a lack of necessary unity. The final result feels like multiple layers of ideas coexist but aren't coherently organized, making the overall appearance more chaotic than a clear, focused, and weighty artistic statement. Doja Cat appeared in a sheer, nude pleated dress designed by Anthony Vaccarello for Saint Laurent, with the idea of exploring the sculptural beauty of ancient Greek art through modern material language. However, despite the ambitious concept, the execution lacked the necessary breakthrough, making the overall look more safe than a clearly statement fashion show. The dress, constructed from silicone and latex to mimic a marble-like draping effect, instead of creating a vibrant and sophisticated feel, evoked a sense of familiarity with her previous red carpet appearances. The nude color combined with long sleeves and a high slit created a seamless silhouette, but lacked a strong enough focal point to make the overall look truly stand out in the event space. The matching latex cape and large gold necklace contributed to expanding the visual concept, but also made the overall composition feel heavier. Instead of creating a soft, sculptural effect, these details make the overall look feel monotonous and drawn out, lacking the necessary contrast to make a clear impression. The high-heeled mules, made from the same material, further extend the artificial material concept, but inadvertently increase the stiffness and unnatural feel of the entire look. Despite the addition of exquisite diamond jewelry, including striking gold earrings with gemstones, the accessories still fail to break free from the overall somber color scheme. The bright blonde wig combined with neutral beige makeup creates a lack of necessary contrast between the face and the overall outfit. Instead of conveying an artistic, sculpted feel, this look appears flat and lifeless. Compared to her previous groundbreaking appearances, Doja Cat's performance this time is more restrained than necessary, resulting in an overall lack of both drama and surprise, meaning the original artistic concept wasn't fully exploited as expected. Katy Perry returned to the red carpet with a highly theatrical look, inspired by astronaut imagery, but the overall effect felt more like a jumble of visual ideas juxtaposed than a cohesive fashion statement. The design, created by Stella McCartney, featured a white strapless gown with a frayed, burnt-effect train, aiming for a surreal and futuristic feel. However, instead of giving the impression of a wearable sculpture, this detail made the overall design look unfinished, lacking the necessary refinement to achieve the sophistication of haute couture. The central focal point was a reflective silver mask, covered with a thin mesh veil that concealed the face, transforming the look into a distinctly anonymous image. While the artistic intent was clearly evident, the execution leaned more towards a theatrical performance than a well-structured fashion design. Additional details, such as the opera gloves with a third-hand effect, evoking a technological image, make the idea heavier and more complex than necessary, instead of reinforcing the original theme. The appearance of tarot cards further pushes the overall design toward symbolism, creating the feeling of multiple layers of ideas superimposed rather than a unified concept. When the mask is removed, the image of silver-plated teeth combined with bright pink lipstick creates a stark contrast with the futuristic spirit the outfit aims for. This results in a lack of aesthetic consistency. With the elaborate hairstyle, numerous symbolic props, and details that take many different directions, the final look is difficult to define as a focal point. Instead of becoming a clearly artistic fashion moment, the overall effect feels ostentatious and fragmented, lacking cohesion between the elements. Gigi Hadid appeared for her 11th time in a bespoke, sheer Mugler design, embodying the spirit of fashion as art, but leaning more toward performance than a true breakthrough in design structure. The outfit was built on the idea of combining elements from archives, with a silhouette reminiscent of a 1998 design and flame embroidery inspired by 2011, creating an overall look rich in historical references but lacking real innovation in its visual language. The almost entirely sheer black dress, crafted from thin fabric, had the potential to become a sculptural work of art on the body, but lacked the structural innovation to make a strong impression. The crystal embellishments and floral embroidery were arranged to accentuate the body's curves, but instead of creating subtle focal points, they distracted the eye, making the garment visually cluttered. Instead of elevating the design, these decorative details inadvertently detract from the overall coherence, causing the outfit to lack the necessary simplicity to achieve the high-end spirit of haute couture. The handling of the sheer voile fabric combined with the embroidery elements leans towards surface complexity, rather than a balance between form and space. The choice of satin lingerie under the sheer fabric continues the familiar red carpet trend of sensuality, but fails to offer a new perspective or a clearer conceptual statement. Instead of creating a bold shift, this detail makes the overall look feel like a repetition of previously seen formulas. Overall, despite possessing many reference details and quite elaborate techniques, this look still doesn't truly break out of its comfort zone. Instead of becoming a distinctly conceptual fashion moment, the overall impression leaned towards a polished look that lacked the groundbreaking element to truly stand out at an event that emphasized creativity. Heidi Klum appeared with the ambition of transforming into a living marble sculpture, but the overall effect leaned more towards a theatrical makeup effect than a subtle interpretation of classical art. The outfit, constructed from multiple layers of latex, spandex, and shaping foam, while clearly intended to recreate sculptural lines, lacked the softness and grace typically associated with marble inspiration. The undulating details, intended to mimic the natural movement of the carved stone, felt thick, rigid, and visually heavy, making the overall effect more direct than artistic. Instead of creating a subtle illusion, the design clearly revealed the material's structure, diminishing the sense of transformation that the original idea aimed for. The makeup, created by Mike Marino, included a veil shaped like a sculpted structure covering the entire face, almost obscuring any personal identity. This eliminated natural expression, transforming the image into a highly performative, living statue, but also diminished the smooth connection to the red carpet atmosphere. The full-body paint, in a pale gray-white tone, combined with special contact lenses and head accessories with a stone-like texture, further emphasized the anthropomorphic effect, creating the feeling of a sculpted entity rather than a person wearing clothing. However, instead of achieving the refined beauty of classical art, the overall effect leaned towards a sense of alienation and ostentation. Although the transformation process reportedly took many hours and involved considerable effort, the final result still felt visually dense and heavy. Instead of a smooth transition between art and fashion, this look leaned towards an overwhelming and overly realistic element, making it somewhat out of tune with the elegant spirit typically associated with the event. Lena Mafouf, la estrella francesa de las redes sociales, lució un diseño de Burke Akiol que priorizaba el impacto visual sobre la sutil interpretación artística. El conjunto buscaba claramente un efecto llamativo, pero carecía de la sobriedad necesaria para crear una imagen armoniosa y profunda. El elemento más destacado fue el collar metálico con forma de mano esculpida, concebido para crear una ilusión simbólica. Sin embargo, en lugar de ser un detalle novedoso y significativo, resultaba familiar, como un truco de alfombra roja ya visto muchas veces, lo que disminuyó considerablemente el factor sorpresa. La idea de cubrir pero no del todo pretendía explorar la interacción entre ocultación y exposición, pero la ejecución careció de la sofisticación necesaria. El tratamiento general carecía de transiciones fluidas entre las formas, lo que socavaba el concepto inicial al aplicarse al diseño completo. El conjunto que se muestra a continuación consiste en un top metálico combinado con una falda plisada de punto azul claro, creando un marcado contraste en materiales y filosofía de diseño. En lugar de complementarse, estos dos elementos hacen que el conjunto resulte inconexo y carezca de unidad en el lenguaje visual. El diseño de talle bajo y los recortes en las caderas enfatizan la sensualidad directamente, pero oscurecen la narrativa artística que el look general intenta construir. Esto hace que la apariencia se incline más hacia el efecto visual que hacia una idea conceptual clara. La elección del maquillaje con tonos azules y blancos intensos, a juego con el atuendo, mantiene la coherencia cromática, pero carece de originalidad. En lugar de crear profundidad, esta combinación hace que el look general sea predecible y carente de sorpresa. Si bien el detalle de la mano esculpida es un motivo recurrente a lo largo del evento, su uso en este caso no logra realzar el look general. El resultado final es un conjunto visualmente rico, pero descoordinado, lo que hace que el efecto general sea fragmentado en lugar de impactante como se esperaba inicialmente. Cardi B appeared for the 7th time in a bespoke Marc Jacobs design, taking the spirit of fashion is art in a bold yet aesthetically controversial way. Inspired by the fragmented body forms in Hans Bellmer's works, the outfit exploited the distortion of form to create a surreal effect. However, the execution leaned more towards visual extremism than the usual sophistication of haute couture. The silhouettes were manipulated with exaggerated proportions and distinct padded sections, creating the impression of a deliberately distorted body but lacking the smooth transitions between shapes necessary for artistic elegance. Thin black lace over a nude background was constructed into large, voluminous sections at the shoulders and lower body, dividing the body into distinct layers, making the overall look more reminiscent of abstract anatomical forms than a complete fashion design. Although the layers of structure are subtly accented with lighter shades like lavender, coral, and pink, these details are almost completely lost within the heavy outer structure, failing to create visual balance or soften the overall composition. Instead of adding depth of color, these hues are scattered and lack connection to the main structure of the outfit. The neat, high-bun hairstyle, combined with smoky eye makeup and nude purple lips, helps maintain a polished look, but it's still insufficient to balance the complexity of the design. The contrast between the minimalist makeup style and the elaborate garment structure creates a lack of necessary harmony. Instead of becoming a tightly controlled surrealist statement, this look leans more towards visual impact rather than artistic depth. The final result feels like a fashion experiment geared towards performance, but fails to achieve a balance between bold ideas and refined aesthetics. Irina Shayk offers a rather bold interpretation of the theme, fashion is art, by choosing a design that is almost revealing, but overall, it sparks much debate due to its emphasis on visual effect rather than the necessary subtlety. The design by Alexander Wang stands out with its tiny bra made from metal threads mimicking gold, silver, and recycled diamonds from watch straps. The initial idea was to celebrate the human body as a living sculpture, but the integration of a watch face as the central detail, along with a series of gemstone embellishments, makes the overall design heavily decorative, lacking the balance usually found in high-end designs. Instead of maintaining minimalism to highlight the artistic concept, the excessive use of watch-shaped accessories, from necklaces and bracelets to decorative chains around the body, makes the composition visually cluttered and difficult to define the focal point. The details extending down the body from the chest to the waist further enhance the visual dispersion, making the overall look lack the necessary continuity. According to shared information, this design required hundreds of hours of handcrafted work, but the final effect feels more complex than necessary, as if the idea was spread out instead of meticulously refined. The combination of the bold, showy top and the low-waisted black skirt that extends to the floor creates an unbalanced proportion, resulting in an overall shape lacking the usual symmetry seen on high-end red carpets. Even the lightly wavy hairstyle and bright makeup intended to draw attention to the jewelry weren't enough to soften the complexity of the outfit. Instead of creating a unified whole, this look resembles a collection of accessories combined together rather than a complete fashion design. With so many details competing for attention, Irina Shayk's appearance serves as an example of how an artistic idea can be overwhelmed by excessive expression, resulting in a highly attention-grabbing look that lacks cohesion and overall sophistication. Lisa, in her role as a member of the organizing committee, appeared in a custom-made Robert Wood design, but the overall effect leaned more towards dramatic performance than aesthetic balance. The dress, inspired by the image of a bride lifting her veil, featured a sheer, bone-toned fishtail silhouette, combined with surreal sculptural elements, creating an ambitious yet controversial image. The most striking element was the three-sleeved structure extending from the back, supporting a veil covered in Swarovski crystals. While the idea was supposedly inspired by traditional Thai dance postures, the execution felt stiff and mechanical, making the symbolic detail appear unnatural and lacking the necessary fluidity. Despite the elaborate investment of thousands of hours of hand embroidery and tens of thousands of crystals, the final effect was visually overwhelming. Too many details appearing in one composition make the outfit heavy and difficult to identify the central focal point of the overall look. The addition of multiple layers of high-end jewelry, including a powerful snake-shaped necklace, further increases the complexity of the appearance. However, instead of elevating the overall look, these accessories make the image denser, detracting from the core idea the design aims to convey. The light pink makeup and ice-colored nails create a soft and cool feel, but lack the contrast to harmonize with such a strong theatrical design. Meanwhile, the neat bun hairstyle with a small curl, while tidy, is rather safe and lacks the necessary element of surprise. The overall aim is to combine cultural heritage, craftsmanship, and contemporary creativity. But the implementation of too many layers of ideas makes the final result visually cluttered, more focused on creating a striking visual impact than on creating a truly cohesive and harmonious artistic image. The Met Gala has long been considered the biggest stage for experimentation and unconventionality in fashion. But as we've just seen, not every bold choice yields convincing results. It's the gap between critically acclaimed appearances and controversial looks that creates the event's unique appeal, where each outfit becomes a personal statement regardless of whether it receives praise or sparks heated debate. If you enjoyed this analysis video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And of course, the debates surrounding red carpet fashion will continue to offer many interesting insights in the future.